Okay, I have a confession to make. A slightly embarrassing one.
Oh, this sounds promising.
So last Saturday, I spent, I think it was 4.5 hours trying to fix my clothes dryer.
Oh, no.
It was making this awful squeaking noise. And, I watched 3 different YouTube videos. I went out and bought a specific wrench I didn't own.
The project range.
The project wrench. I cut my hand on a piece of sheet metal. And at the end of the day, I just ended up staring at the wall.
And let me guess, the squeak is still there.
The squeak is louder. And I was exhausted. But the whole time, I had this voice in my head saying I had to do it. That calling a repairman was, giving up.
Right.
That paying someone else was literally losing money.
That is such a common feeling. It's that guilt, right? This idea that if you are physically capable of doing something, you are sort of morally obligated to do it yourself.
Exactly. It feels like a badge of honor. I fixed it myself. But we have a stack of notes today that says that specific feeling, that DIY guilt, isn't just wrong. It's actually making us poor.
It is. We're looking at a source titled The Wealth of Exchange and Specialization, and specifically lesson number 6. And the premise is, well, it's going to hurt the ego of every jack of all trades listening right now.
Which implies that being a jack of all trades means you're a master of none.
Well, the source goes even further. It argues that being a jack of all trades makes you, economically speaking, a poor man.
Wow.
It suggests that the most selfish thing you can do for your own wealth is to refuse to do things you aren't an expert at.
Ouch. Okay, so the mission for this deep dive is to explain why. We are going to dismantle the whole I can do it all mindset.
Yes.
We're going to look at why autarky, which is a fancy word for self-sufficiency, is a trap. And we're going to do the math on why I really, really should have just called the repairman for that dryer.
And it's not just about money. It's about how we value our lives.
So let's unpack this. We have to start with this concept of autarky. It sounds like a sci-fi villain organization.
It does sound grand, doesn't it? The United Federation of Autarky. But in economic terms, autarky is actually quite isolating. It's the attempt to be entirely self-sufficient. The idea that you grow your own wheat, you bake your own bread, you sew your own clothes.
Which, to be fair, is the dream for a lot of people right now. That whole homesteading life. Yeah. Off-grid, independent.
It has a romantic appeal, for sure. But the source makes a very harsh point right off the bat. It says, if you try to do everything yourself, you waste a huge amount of time doing things you are bad at.
And that gets us back to lesson number 1 from the broader text, right?
Exactly. Time is the most limited resource.
The source gives us a really relatable story here to illustrate this. We've got a character named Annie, and Annie decides she needs a new wardrobe.
A classic setup.
So picture this. Annie goes to the furniture store, looks at the price tag, and just says, $300, I'm not paying that.
It's just wood and screws.
It's just wood and screws. I'm smart, I'm handy, I'm going to build this myself to save money.
The famous last words of the DIY enthusiast.
So she goes to the hardware store. She buys the lumber, the varnish, the brackets. She's feeling great. She's thinking, I'm beating the system. But then reality sets in. The source details this painful 10-hour saga.
And it's not just 10 hours of smooth sailing, I'm guessing. It's 10 hours of struggle. It's that learning curve tax.
A huge tax. She's watching tutorials at double speed, realizing she bought the wrong size screws, going back to the store. The source even mentions she smashes her finger with a hammer around hour 7.
Painful.
And the kicker is the result. After all that, the wardrobe, it wobbles.
Oh, no.
It's objectively worse than the one she refused to buy.
Right. And here is where the logic really hits hard. There's another character in the text, Sean. And he looks at this wobbly wardrobe and asks the uncomfortable question.
He doesn't ask, did you have fun?
No. Or did you learn a lot?
Yeah.
He asks, how much would you have earned in those 10 hours at your main job?
That is the killer question. Because we tend to look at the receipt for the lumber and say, hey, the lumber cost $100. The store wardrobe was $300. I saved $200.
Exactly. That's what's called accounting cost. It's looking at the cash leaving your wallet. But economics looks at opportunity cost.
The cost of the alternative. What you gave up.
Precisely. Let's say Annie is a professional. Maybe she's a graphic designer or consultant. And let's say she makes, conservatively, $50 an hour.
Okay, so 10 hours of work.
Those 10 hours she spent sweating over a wobbly wardrobe didn't just cost her the lumber, they cost her the opportunity to work.
So she burned $500 of billable time.
$500. Plus the $100 for lumber.
Plus the medical copay for the smashed finger.
So that cheap DIY project actually cost her over $600. She paid double for a worse product.
That is devastating when you put it that way.
It is. It's lesson number 2 in the text. When you try to save money by doing everything yourself, you often lose more in lost opportunities.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here because I know what you're thinking.
Go for it.
I don't work 24/7. If I do this on a Saturday, I wouldn't be earning money anyway. So isn't that time free?
That is the most common objection.
Oh,
But is your free time worthless?
well, no.
If you spent those 10 hours resting or with your kids or reading a book, you are recharging. That has immense value. It makes you bitter at your job on Monday.
Right.
But if you spend your rest time frustrated, cursing at a piece of wood, you're draining your battery. You're paying with your sanity.
So autarky is this trap of thinking that keeping money in your pocket is always the same as saving. But if you're spending time, you're spending money.
Precisely. And that leads us to the alternative. If we shouldn't be jacks of all trades, what should we be?
Specialization.
A source says. Specialization. Focusing on the one thing you're actually good at.
The idea that the economy thrives when people focus on where they're most productive.
Exactly. And the source has a great dialogue between Annie and Sean to illustrate this. So let's say Annie is a great writer.
A copywriter.
And Sean is a numbers guy. He's great with calculations. But in that autarky world, Annie has to write her reports. Andy do her own accounting.
And Sean has to do his accounting Andy, try to write his own reports.
And since Annie is bad at math, it takes her forever. She makes mistakes. And Sean is bad at writing, so he just stares at a blank page.
They're both operating inefficiently.
The friction is high. But the text proposes a swap. Sean says, Annie, you write for both of us. I'll count for both of us.
And the claim is pretty bold here. It says if they do that, they can do 3 times more work in the same amount of time.
That 3 times figure is really important. It highlights that specialization isn't just about being a little bit faster.
Right.
It creates a multiplier effect.
Right.
It's what economists call the division of labor.
So it's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It's more like 1 + 1 = 3.
Yes. Think about it. When you focus solely on writing, you get into a flow state. You have the right software open. You know the shortcuts. You don't have to switch mental gears. The total output of the entire system, Annie and Sean together, just increases dramatically.
This makes sense. If I just focus on podcasting and didn't have to, try and fix my dryer.
We could probably make better podcasts.
And the repairman who fixes 5 dryers a day can fix yours in 20 minutes with his eyes closed.
And the total amount of goods, fixed dryers, and produced podcasts goes up for everyone.
Okay, I'm following the math on specialization, but let me push back again.
Go ahead.
Isn't this incredibly risky? I mean, if I specialize only in podcasting and I don't know how to grow food or fix a leak, I'm helpless. What if the plumber doesn't show up?
That is a very primal fear. We worry that dependency makes us vulnerable. We think, if I can't do it myself, I'm at the mercy of others.
Exactly. Dependency sounds like weakness.
But the source argues the opposite. Think about the jack-of-all-trades farmer from 200 years ago. If he gets sick, his farm stops.
Right.
His house falls apart. His income stops. He is a single point of failure.
Fair point. If he breaks a leg, it's game over.
But in a specialized economy, you have a network. If your usual plumber is sick, you call a different plumber. If one grocery store closes, you go to another one. The source suggests that true security comes from the massive surplus and the network that specialization creates, not from hoarding every skill yourself.
So we're trading individual self-sufficiency for a kind of collective security.
Correct. Which brings us to the trickiest concept in this entire stack, the one that trips people up in Econ 101 all the time.
What's that?
We've established you should trade if you're bad at something. But what happens if you are better than the other person at everything?
The Superman scenario.
Exactly. Let's say I'm a genius. I write better than you, and I'm better at math than you. Should I just ignore you and do it all myself? I mean, I'm faster at both.
Intuitively, yeah, I'd say yes. If I can do it better and faster, why would I hire you? I'd just be frustrated watching you work slowly.
And that intuition is exactly what keeps people poor. This leads us to the concept of comparative advantage. It is arguably one of the most counterintuitive but powerful ideas in social science.
And the source uses a really vivid example here, a surgeon.
Yes, the surgeon example. Let's slow this down because this is where our brains really fight the logic. So we have a surgeon, an absolute machine, a miracle worker with a scalpel.
Got it.
But interestingly, this surgeon is also the world's best floor washer.
Okay, weird flex, but sure.
Right. They can mop an operating room floor in 20 minutes, perfectly spotless. Now, they're considering hiring a janitor. but the janitor is slower. It takes the janitor a full hour to do what the surgeon does in 20 minutes.
So the surgeon has the absolute advantage. They are better at surgery and better at cleaning.
Correct. So intuitively, if I'm the surgeon, I'm thinking, why pay this guy to do a worse job than I can? I'll just knock it out before my first patient.
Seems like the efficient choice.
But let's do the math. What is the market value of 1 hour of that surgeon's time?
Oh, well, it's high. Let's say $1,000.
Okay, $1,000. And what is the market rate for a janitor? Maybe $20 an hour.
Sounds about right.
So if the surgeon decides, I'm faster, I'll just pick up the mop, and they spend that hour cleaning, what did they actually pay for that clean floor?
Well, out of pocket, zero.
No, think about the opportunity cost. By holding the mop, they couldn't hold the scalpel.
Oh, wow.
They literally vaporized the $1,000 in surgery fees they could have earned.
So they threw away $1,000 to save, what, the 20 they would have paid the janitor?
Exactly. That is terrible math. They effectively paid $1,000 to wash a floor.
That's the definition of comparative advantage.
That's it. It doesn't matter that the surgeon is faster. It matters that the surgeon is too expensive to be washing floors. The janitor is the low-cost producer of clean floors, not because he's fast, but because his time isn't worth $1,000 an hour.
This really flips the script on how we view skill. It's not about who is better.
No.
It's about what you are giving up to do that task.
Exactly. Trade lets you focus on your most valuable activity. The surgeon gets wealthy not by hoarding all the tasks they're good at, but by outsourcing the low-value tasks, even the ones they are excellent at.
So we've established the surgeon needs to drop the mop, but that creates a new problem.
Which is?
Well, if I only do surgery or I only write code, I can't eat code. I can't live inside a spreadsheet. I have to trade.
You do. And that brings us to the final and maybe most philosophical part of the text. How do we view that trade?
Well, there's that feeling we talked about at the start. That trade is a win-lose game. You know, if I pay the plumber, I have less money, he has more, I lost.
The zero-sum game fallacy. The idea that for me to win, you must lose. But our source is very clear. Trade is a positive-sum game.
Meaning both sides win?
Yes. Let's use the coffee shop example in the text.
Yeah.
Annie asks, if I buy coffee instead of making it, aren't I just losing money?
Valid question. A latte is what, $5 now?
Right. But let's look at the moment as a transaction. Annie has a $5 bill. The barista has a cup of coffee. Why did they swap?
She wants the caffeine.
More than that. At that exact moment, she values the hot coffee and the 15 minutes she saved more than she values that $5 bill.
Okay, I see that. The coffee is worth more to her than the money.
And the barista. For them, the beans and milk cost maybe $2. They value the $5 bill more than the coffee they just handed over.
So Annie walks away thinking, yes, coffee. And the shop owner walks away thinking, yes, revenue.
Both parties are richer in terms of satisfaction and value. The text puts it beautifully. Exchange turns mine and yours into our commonwealth.
It creates value out of thin air just by moving things to the people who want them most.
It's not about exploitation. It's about mutual benefit. If it wasn't beneficial for both sides, the trade wouldn't happen.
And the lesson here is that trade is essentially a technology. It's a way to get more without actually working more.
It's like magic, but with math.
The best kind of magic. So let's bring this all the way back to the listener, sitting there with that long weekend to-do list.
The infamous list.
We started by saying that being a jack of all trades is a trap. And I think we've proven that.
I think so. To recap, a turkey trying to do it all wastes your most precious resource, time.
Right. Specialization isn't just about speed. It creates that multiplier effect.
And comparative advantage teaches us the hardest lesson. Even if you are the best at something, if it's not your highest value work, doing it yourself is costing you a fortune.
And finally, trade isn't a battle. It's a positive-sum game where everyone walks away better off.
It's the engine of prosperity.
So here's the challenge for you, the listener. Look at your weekend plans. Is there something on that list, cleaning the gutters, painting the guest room, that you are doing solely to save money?
Ask yourself, how much is your time actually worth? If you spent those 4 hours resting so you could be 100% effective on Monday, are you really saving money by doing a $15 an hour task?
You might be saving pennies and burning dollars.
And driving yourself crazy in the process.
Yeah. I want to leave everyone with a final thought from this text. We often think wealth is about accumulating money, accumulating skills. I can do this, I can do that.
But this deep dive suggests the opposite.
Exactly. If trade allows us to separate what we consume from what we produce, Perhaps the key to real wealth isn't hoarding skills. Maybe it's about letting them go.
Letting go of the need to be the hero in every story so you can be the master of your own.
That is a powerful thought. Stop trying to be the surgeon who mops the floor.
Drop the mop.
Drop the mop. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one.